Mjun, this is not right. We can't keep doing this.
Tell me to stop, and I promise I would. Back in Seoul at the worst possible time?
I came home. That's all.
Then you've returned to a battlefield.
And what about you? Why do you keep stepping into my life when I don't ask you to?
Because I can't seem to walk away.
Ada, you're finally home!
Welcome to Moonlit Stories, where moonlight meets myth. Love timeless tales. Then hit like, subscribe. Please tell us where you are watching from and join our circle. Every story begins with you. Ada Okafor stepped out of the arrival gate with a steady breath, her fingers tightening around the handle of her suitcase. Seoul felt the same, but she wasn't the same girl who had left 5 years ago. She had returned older, calmer, and determined. At least that was what she told herself. The moment she turned her phone on, the first headline she saw made her chest tighten. Adeyemi Tech in deep crisis. Possible takeover looming. She didn't need anyone to explain what that meant. Adeyemi Tech, the company belonging to the family that raised her, was one step away from collapsing. And the only person with the power to save it was the one man she hoped she wouldn't have to deal with so soon. Han Mjun, CEO of Han Group, Kunal's best friend, and the coldest man in Seoul. His name alone pulled memories forward, Kunal talking about him endlessly, joking that Mjun wasn't human but a machine. Mrs. Yulisa whispering that Mjun's smile should be displayed in a museum because no one ever saw it. Ada watching the two men together and noticing how Mjun always stood slightly apart, as if he didn't belong anywhere. Even before she saw him again, she could feel his presence in her return. The entire Adeyemi Tech problem revolved around him. Without his partnership, Kunal had no way out. Ada sighed and pushed her suitcase forward. She wasn't part of the company, but she cared. She always cared. Especially because Kunal Adeyemi had been the first person to make her feel seen when she was adopted into the family years ago. He was supposed to be a brother, but her teenage heart hadn't listened. She had buried those feelings before leaving Seoul. Coming back meant facing him again, and pretending the past was nothing but a memory. Her phone buzzed. Kunal. Welcome back, Ada. I'm on my way to the airport. She smiled without meaning to. 5 years apart, and he still sounded like home. But before she could respond, another message arrived. Unexpected, short, and from a number she had never saved but instantly recognized. Mjun. Where are you? Ada froze. Why was Han Mjun texting her? She typed slowly. Ada. At the arrival gate. Waiting for Kunal. His reply came immediately. Mjun. I'm closer. She didn't understand what that meant until she lifted her head and saw him walking toward her. Sharp suit. Steady steps. Eyes that missed nothing. Han Mjun reached her before words did. He stopped right in front of her, gaze fixed on her face as if confirming she was real. Ada Okafor, he said quietly.
Back in Seoul at the worst possible time?
At the worst possible time. His tone wasn't warm.
Then you've returned to a battlefield.
It wasn't welcoming. It was simply Mjun, direct, unreadable, cutting straight into the truth. Ada lifted her chin. I came home. That's all. Home, he repeated, studying her. Then you've returned to a battlefield. Before she could respond, Kunal's voice echoed behind them, calling her name with joy she hadn't heard in years. Ada turned toward Kunal. But her story had already begun, with Mjun standing in front of her, watching everything. Kunal's warm shout had barely reached Ada when Mjun's gaze shifted, sharp and unreadable, as though measuring her reaction to the sound of her name on someone else's lips. Ada stepped away from him instinctively, her heartbeat settling into something familiar the moment she saw Kunal striding toward her. Kunal didn't walk. He moved with the confidence of someone who had never doubted his place in the world.
Home.
The smile on his face grew when he reached her, and without hesitation, he pulled her into a long, tight hug. You're finally home, he said into her hair. Ada allowed herself a second inside that embrace before pulling back. I told you I'd come. You said that 5 years ago too, he teased gently. Then he noticed Mjun standing behind her and raised a brow. You already met her? Mjun's expression didn't shift. She was standing in my path. Ada almost rolled her eyes. Same Mjun. No softness. No filter. Kunal sighed. You could try to sound human, Mjun. Not today, Mjun replied. Ada cleared her throat and shifted her suitcase. Before Kunal could whisk her away, she turned back to Mjun. She wasn't sure if courage or reckless emotion was driving her, but she spoke anyway. Since we're all here, she began, I want to talk to you about Adeyemi Tech's drone project. Kunal blinked. Ada. I'm serious, she continued. You're already here, Mjun. At least hear me out. Mjun didn't even give her a full second before shutting the request down. No. Simple. Final. Ada stiffened. You didn't even listen. You didn't book a meeting, he replied calmly. And I don't negotiate in airports. It's not negotiation, she insisted. It's a chance. You know the company is in trouble. Then follow protocol, he said. My assistant handles scheduling. Kunal winced at Mjun's blunt tone, but Ada wasn't done. You and Kunal are practically brothers, she pressed. Can't you show a little flexibility for his family? Mjun's eyes cooled noticeably. You're the family? He asked softly. You're the adopted little sister. You don't get special access. The words hit harder than she expected, not because they surprised her, but because he said them so openly. Kunal stepped in quickly. Mjun, enough. Mjun didn't apologize. He never did. Ada forced her voice to stay steady. Fine. I'll book through your assistant. Good, Mjun replied, adjusting his sleeve. Then we won't have misunderstandings. Kunal exhaled and pulled her suitcase from her hand. Ignore him. He bites everyone. Ada managed a small smile, though her chest felt tight. I didn't expect anything less. Kunal looped an arm around her shoulder. Come on. Mom made dinner, and she's been counting down hours like a military operation. Before they walked off, Kunal glanced back over his shoulder. Mjun, you're coming tonight, right? Mjun paused. To what? My birthday, Kunal replied. Don't pretend you forgot. For a moment, Mjun's expression softened. Barely, but it was there. I'll be there. Kunal grinned. Ada stayed silent. As they left the airport together, she could feel Mjun's gaze lingering on her back, sharp, unreadable, already tied to the path her life was about to take. Kunal's home was already crowded by the time he and Ada arrived. As soon as they stepped in, voices rose with excitement for Kunal, but the moment Ada entered beside him, the energy shifted. Not loudly. Not obviously. Just enough for her to feel it in her bones. Whispers moved through the room like tiny knives. That's the adopted one, right? Kunal is too soft. Imagine bringing a charity case to a party like this. I heard she used to follow him everywhere. Pathetic. She probably came back to chase her brother again. Ada kept her face steady. 5 years had matured her, but words still cut when they came from the same circles that had once shoved her into corners. Kunal didn't notice. He was busy greeting guests, receiving gifts, shaking hands. He pulled Ada along proudly, introducing her with real affection, but affection didn't protect her from people who didn't want her there. Especially not from Mabel Lee, Kunal's fiancée. Mabel approached with a practiced smile and perfectly styled confidence. Ada, you're back. How nice. Her tone said the opposite. Beside her were her cousins, Lauren Lee and the Ford sisters, Mina and Sujin, their faces glowing with subtle cruelty. Lauren looked Ada over slowly. 5 years abroad and this is how you return. I expected improvement. Mina snickered. She still thinks Kunal is her prince. Sujin added, maybe she came home to try again. Old habits die hard. Ada refused to flinch. Relax, she said calmly. Your imaginations are louder than your manners. Their smiles faltered for a split second, but that was enough for Ada. Unfortunately, someone nearby clapped loudly. Let's play something. A birthday isn't complete without a game. Cunnel groaned. Please tell me it's not. Spin the bottle, a guest announced proudly, spinning an empty wine bottle on the table. Cunnel was about to refuse, but the crowd insisted. Someone pushed him into a seat. Mabel took the one beside him, marking her territory. Ada tried to slip away unnoticed, but Lauren caught her wrist. Oh no, Ada, Lauren said sweetly. You're playing too. Don't be shy. We want to see who you pick. Ada sat down reluctantly. The bottle spun through laughter and cheers. It pointed at Mabel once, at Cunnel once, both harmless rounds. Then it was Ada's turn. Lauren spun the bottle with clear intention. It whirled, slowed, trembled, then stopped. Right at Mjun, who had just entered the room. A hush fell. Ada's heart dropped. She hadn't even known he was watching from the doorway. Lauren gasped dramatically. Wow. Aiming high, aren't we? Mina added. She really doesn't fear embarrassment. Sujin whispered loudly. Imagine thinking Mjun would let her come close. Ada tried to stand. This is childish. I'm not playing. But the crowd pressed in with mocking encouragement. Choose him. Kiss him. Don't be scared. Mjun stepped forward slowly, his face unreadable. He looked at Ada first, direct, steady, then turned to the room. Enough, he said. The word cut the noise instantly. This game ends now. No shouting. No anger. Just pure authority. Lauren tried to laugh it off. Mjun, it's just fun. He didn't even look at her. I said it's over. People scattered. The bottle rolled off the table. Ada exhaled shakily, and for the first time tonight, Mjun's eyes softened. Barely, but enough for her to feel it. The moment Mjun ended the game, the room scattered like startled birds. No one wanted to challenge him directly. Ada used the distraction to slip out, her pulse still unsteady. She needed air, not outside, just away from the eyes waiting to judge her next move. She found the kitchen empty except for the half-finished birthday cake sitting on the counter, the one Mabel's cousins had been messing with earlier. They had jabbed forks into it while laughing about poor Ada, not knowing she'd been standing at the doorway long enough to hear every word. She picked up a clean plate and cut a neat slice from the damaged side. Right on cue, the Ford sisters and Lauren pushed the kitchen door open, whispering furiously about Mjun's interruption. Mina froze when she saw Ada holding the plate. What are you doing in here? Lauren asked, folding her arms. Ada walked toward them slowly, calm in a way that made all three stiffen. You ruined Cunnel's cake, Ada said simply. So you should eat this slice. Sujin scoffed. Why would I? Ada raised the plate to her mouth. Eat it. There was no shouting. No threats. Just quiet insistence. The kind that made Sujin glance at Lauren before reluctantly leaning forward for a bite. The moment the ruined filling hit her tongue, Sujin gagged. This tastes like salt. Who put salt in cake? You did, Ada replied softly. While insulting me and Cunnel. Lauren stepped forward angrily. Are you trying to embarrass us? No, Ada said. I'm telling you one thing clearly. Leave me out of your gossip. And leave Cunnel's name out of it too. Whatever you think you know about me, keep it to yourselves. Mina rolled her eyes. You think we're scared of you? No, Ada said, placing the plate down carefully. You're careless. And if you keep dragging Cunnel's name into your pettiness, you'll find out I'm not as soft as you think. The room fell silent. The girls exchanged uneasy looks as Ada wiped her hands and walked past them. She didn't see Mjun leaning against the hallway wall until she stepped out. How long were you there? she asked. Long enough, he replied. You finally bit back. It wasn't a performance, Ada muttered. They needed to hear it. He studied her for a moment. You still care too much about being liked. Ada crossed her arms. Do you blame me? This world was never mine. Then stop trying to fit into it, he said plainly. Or it will eat you alive. She hesitated before asking. Earlier at the airport, when you said I should seduce you, was that a joke or a test? Mjun's expression didn't shift. Neither. Just a mirror. A mirror. People show their truth when pushed. He took a step closer. And you're still trying to protect a man who will never see you the same way. Her breath hitched. You mean Kunnel? Yes. His voice was quiet but certain. It's time to stop loving him. Ada looked away, but Mjun's words stayed, sharp, heavy, unsettling. And somehow, they hurt more because a part of her knew he was right. Ada didn't see Mjun again for the rest of the evening. His words still clung to her mind, sharp, unsettling, too close to the truth she had spent years running from. But she forced herself back into the celebration, wearing a calm smile for Kunnel's sake. Mrs. Yulisa found her first. Ada, come, she said warmly, guiding her to a quieter corner. Her voice held the gentle authority Ada grew up respecting. There's something you should hear from me before it becomes public gossip. Ada straightened. Is everything okay? Yulisa hesitated only a moment. Kunnel and Mabel's engagement is almost finalized. The families have agreed. We're only waiting for the formal announcement. The words landed like a stone in Ada's stomach, but her face did not betray her. She had practiced this kind of control for years. That's wonderful, Ada said with a soft smile. I'm happy for them. Yulisa searched her eyes. Truly? Yes, Ada replied. Kunnel deserves a good partner, and Mabel is his choice. It wasn't fully true, and Yulisa knew it. But she let it go with a sigh. Good. Then support him. He needs unity right now. Ada nodded. Of course. Before they could continue, Mabel approached, her steps brisk and her smile too sweet. Mrs. Yulisa, are you telling Ada the good news? Mabel asked brightly. I hope she isn't overwhelmed. Ada kept her voice steady. I congratulated you already. Mabel tilted her head. I just wanted to make sure you understood. We wouldn't want any confusion about your place here now that things are changing. Ada's fingers tightened around the hem of her dress. My place hasn't changed. Lauren drifted closer, sensing tension. Mabel, be kind. Ada is sensitive. She always takes things the wrong way. Ada inhaled slowly. Say what you want to say, Lauren. Mabel took the invitation instantly. Fine. We're engaged soon, and I don't want any old attachments getting in the way. It would be embarrassing if someone thought you were still clinging to Kunnel. Ada met her gaze without blinking. I don't cling to anyone. But maybe you do, since you're the one worried. Lauren's mouth dropped. What did you say? You heard me, Ada replied calmly. If you're secure with Kunnel, you don't need to attack me every chance you get. Gasps spread around them. Mabel flushed with humiliation and anger. How dare you, she snapped. Then her hand flew. The slap echoed far louder than the music. Ada's head snapped to the side, her cheek stinging, but she didn't react. She simply turned her face back and looked at Mabel with a steady, cold calm that only made Mabel angrier. Before anyone could intervene, the patriarch's voice thundered from the doorway. What is happening here? Chief Adeyemi, Kunnel's grandfather, entered with his cane tapping sharply. His eyes went straight to Ada's reddened cheek and Mabel's shaking hand. Lauren rushed forward. Grandfather, Ada insulted Mabel. She caused a scene in front of everyone. Mabel added quickly, I only defended myself. She was disrespectful. Chief Adeyemi's gaze hardened as he looked at Ada. Must you shame this family the very night you return? He demanded. After everything we've given you? Ada's heart tightened, but her voice stayed controlled. I didn't start the fight. You never do, the old man snapped. Yet trouble always finds you. Kunnel appeared behind him, stunned, but the damage was done. Ada lowered her gaze, not because she agreed, but because she knew arguing would only make everything worse. And in the corner of the room, far enough to be unseen yet close enough to witness everything, Mjun watched her quietly, his expression unreadable. After the confrontation with Chief Adeyemi, Ada kept a low profile for a few days. She avoided unnecessary interactions, choosing instead to help Yulisa with a charity event for kids, a place where she expected calm, not conflict. But trouble had a way of finding her. The fundraiser was filled with wealthy families and their perfectly dressed children. Ada focused on arranging the donation tables, helping little ones pick prizes, and staying far away from anyone who might drag last week's drama into today. She didn't notice Jean Kong until he tapped her shoulder. Of all the people she didn't want to see, Jean was at the very top. A spoiled heir with a reputation for chaos, he was the kind of person everyone warned her to avoid. You're Ada, right? Jean asked with a smile that tried too hard. Long time. You're prettier now. Ada kept her voice polite. Good afternoon. I'm busy. Enjoy the event. She walked away, but he followed, holding a glass. Relax. I just wanted to congratulate you on coming back. Seoul missed you. He offered the drink. Here. You look tired. I'm fine, she said, refusing. He chuckled. Don't act like a saint. One drink won't kill you. Against her better judgment, and because she didn't want a scene around children, Ada accepted the glass but only took a tiny sip. That was all Jean needed. Minutes later, her heartbeat accelerated. Her vision wavered. The room swayed. Something was wrong. Jean noticed instantly. Let me help you, he said, grabbing her arm. Ada tried to pull away, but her limbs felt heavy. Let go, she whispered. No one's watching, Jean said, dragging her into a quiet hallway. Stop pretending. You know why you came back. Ada pushed at his chest weakly. Let me go, Jean. He pinned her against the wall. Edward protected you before. But tonight, he's not here. You're all mine. Ada's breath caught, not from fear alone, but from the drug clouding her thoughts. Jean leaned in. And then he was violently torn away. Ada blinked, confused, until she saw the familiar silhouette. Han Mjun. His fist connected with Jin's jaw so hard the man fell back. Mjun didn't shout. He didn't show rage. He was terrifying in his calm. I warned you once, Mjun said coldly. Touch her again and you won't walk away. Jin spat blood. She wanted it. Mjun kicked him in the ribs, ending the sentence instantly. Then he turned to Ada, his voice switching to something controlled, quiet. Ada, look at me. She couldn't focus. Her body trembled. Mjun, something's wrong. I can't. He caught her before she collapsed. Within minutes, he had her in his car, then in a hotel room, somewhere private, somewhere safe. Ada lay on the bed, fighting the drug's effects. Don't leave me, she whispered. Please, if a stranger sees me like this. If someone touches me. Mjun, I'd rather it be you. Please, just do it. Don't let anyone else. He froze, staring at her in disbelief. Then he shook his head. Ada, no. Please, she begged, tears slipping down her face. Mjun covered her trembling hand with his own. I'm not that kind of man. He stepped back, grabbed his phone, and called immediately. Dr. O. Room 2103. Come now. Ada curled into herself, sobbing softly from fear, shame, and the drug running wild through her blood. Mjun sat beside her, jaw tight, eyes burning, not with desire, but with fury that anyone had dared to harm her. You're safe, he said quietly, brushing a tear from her cheek. As long as I'm here, no one touches you. And he stayed, guarding her, watching over her, until she finally slept. Ada needed 3 full days to recover. The drug had left her weak, embarrassed, and angry at herself for letting Jean get so close. Through all of it, Mjun never mentioned what happened that night. He didn't gloat, didn't tease, didn't lecture. He simply sent a message the next morning. Dr. O says you'll be fine. Rest. No warmth. But the care was unmistakable. On the 4th day, she walked into the Adeyemi tech office for the meeting that could determine their entire future. The pitch at Han Group. Kunal had wanted to postpone it because of what she went through, but Ada refused. Adeyemi Tech can't pause, she told him. Neither can I. So she led the team to Han Group's headquarters, heart steady, steps firm. She wasn't going to face Mjun as the girl who almost broke down in a hotel room. She would face him as a professional. Inside the conference room, Han Group executives sat in a neat row, well-dressed, sharp-eyed, impossible to impress. And at the center of the table sat Mjun, unreadable as ever. Adeyemi Tech, he said simply. Begin. Ada presented the hydrogen-powered drone project with clarity and confidence. She explained the prototype's strengths and flaws, the research team's progress, and the potential for long-term impact. The room listened. Even the senior managers nodded at her concise delivery. When she finished, Mjun tapped his pen once against the table. We'll need the final prototype ready in 1 month. Her stomach dropped, not from fear, but irritation. That's impossible, Ada replied. You know hydrogen systems need more time. If we rush, the product will fail before it hits testing. The room stiffened. No one contradicted Mjun. Ever. One of the executives whispered. Bold. Another muttered. She'll get herself kicked out. Mjun leaned back, expression calm but sharp. If a company asks us for investment, we don't adjust our standards for them. Ada met his eyes without flinching. And if you want a product worthy of Han Group, you give us 2 months. A silence thicker than anger settled over the room. Kunal shifted beside her, worried she was crossing a line she couldn't return from. Mjun placed his pen down. 2 months is slow. It's honest, Ada replied. He watched her, long enough for the executives to exchange uneasy glances. Something unspoken passed between them, something not quite professional but not inappropriate either. Just awareness. Finally, he exhaled quietly. 2 months. Gasps spread around the table. A director nearly dropped his tablet. Mjun continued, but you will send weekly progress reports directly to me. No delays. Ada nodded. Agreed. The executives still stared at their CEO as if witnessing a miracle. One whispered under his breath, "Since when does he compromise?" Another said, "He never bends deadlines." Kunal leaned toward Ada and murmured, "What did you do to him?" "Nothing," she muttered back. But the way Mjun's gaze lingered on her told a different story, one that no one else in the room understood. As the meeting ended, Mjun stood and addressed the team. "We expect excellence. Don't disappoint me." But when his eyes settled on Ada again, they softened, just slightly, just enough for her to notice. And enough for everyone else to pretend they hadn't. The successful meeting at Han Group put Adeyemi Tech back on its feet, and Kunal felt relieved for the first time in months. To celebrate, and to finally take the next big step in his personal life, he planned a surprise proposal for Mabel in the hills outside Seoul. "Ada, you have to come," he insisted. "You're the only one who can help me keep the ring hidden. And it would mean a lot." Ada agreed, even though something inside her tightened. She wanted Kunal happy. She genuinely did. But agreeing to help with the proposal felt like tying a knot around the last fragile thread of her old feelings. Still, she smiled and showed up. Mabel invited her cousins, Lauren and the Ford sisters. Their fake politeness made Ada uneasy, but she stayed focused on the ring box tucked safely inside her small bag. The moment Kunnel walked ahead to check the setup point, Lauren accidentally brushed past Ada. Mina followed with a laugh, swinging her leg a little too widely. Ada's bag toppled over the edge of a steep slope. The Ford sisters gasped dramatically. "Oh no! That was careless of you, Ada." Ada didn't respond. She simply stared down the slope where the bag had vanished into the thick brush. That bag held the ring Kunnel trusted her with. She couldn't fail him. Without waiting for help, she climbed down carefully, keeping her focus on the ground. She searched and searched, but the deeper she went, the more the path twisted until she could no longer recognize where she came from. Minutes stretched. Her phone signal flickered. Her breath quickened. She was lost. Just when panic began to creep in, a voice cut through the quiet. "Ada." She froze. She knew that voice too well. Mjun emerged through the brush, breathing hard, his face sharper than usual. "Why are you down here alone?" Before she could answer, his knees buckled slightly. He steadied himself against a tree. Ada rushed to him. "You're burning up. You have a fever." He brushed her hand off. "I'm fine." "No, you're not." He didn't argue further, not because he agreed, but because he didn't have the strength. Together, they found a small abandoned shelter used by hikers. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep him from collapsing outside. Ada guided him inside, removing his jacket. His skin was hot, his breath shallow. She soaked a cloth from her bottle of water and pressed it to his forehead. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "I came because Kunnel said you vanished," he muttered. "And because those girls are trouble." She paused. "You came for me." He looked at her tiredly. "Don't make it sound soft." They sat in tense silence before he spoke again. "You keep risking yourself for people who don't value you." "You mean Kunnel?" she asked quietly. "Yes." His eyes opened, sharp even through the fever. "He cares for you, but not the way you want. Stop tying your worth to him." Ada swallowed hard. "And what about you? Why do you keep stepping into my life when I don't ask you to?" His answer was quiet, almost reluctant. "Because I can't seem to walk away." The words hung heavy between them, warm, dangerous, honest. And the night forced them to stay in that shelter together until morning, with nothing but truth, tension, and unfinished emotions between them. Morning light crept slowly into the small shelter, brushing across Ada's face. Mjun was still asleep beside her, his fever finally easing after a long, restless night. She checked his temperature again, relieved to feel it dropping. Before she could wake him gently, loud voices echoed through the trees. "Ada." Kunnel's voice, sharp, worried, desperate. Ada stepped outside, waving. "Kunnel. I'm here." He sprinted toward her, breath uneven, eyes full of fear. When he saw Mjun behind her, leaning on the doorway for balance, confusion crossed his expression. "You two? Together?" "He had a fever," Ada explained quickly. "He found me when I was lost. He stayed because I couldn't climb out alone." Kunnel nodded, though something unreadable flickered across his face. "I'm just glad you're safe." Behind him, Lauren and the Ford sisters arrived, pretending shock and relief. Ada watched their theatrical sighs, their murmured apologies, and felt something darken in her chest. A few hours later, after everyone returned to the main campsite, one of Kunnel's staff members approached quietly, holding a small device. "Sir, we reviewed the camera footage from the trail. The Ford sisters didn't accidentally kick Ada's bag." He handed over the video. It showed Mina grinning as she nudged the bag with her foot, pushing it clean off the slope. Kunnel's jaw tightened. Lauren stammered. "Kunnel, it was a mistake." "No," Kunnel snapped. "You wanted Ada gone. And you knew she had the ring." Mina tried to laugh it off. "We didn't think she'd actually get lost." "You could have killed her." Kunnel's voice had changed. Cold, disgusted. Leave. All of you. He turned away, refusing to look at their shocked faces. He didn't even check if they followed his order. Ada felt her chest tighten. She hated being the reason Kunal was upset, but she also knew the truth had to come out. Mjun, still burning with fever, swayed slightly. Kunal noticed immediately. "You're sick," he said. "Let's get you to the hospital." Mjun didn't argue. By the time they reached Seoul, Mjun's fever had spiked again. He was admitted quickly, and Ada waited outside the room, twisting her fingers. Kunal stood at her side in silence. Finally, he spoke. "Thank you for staying with him last night." Ada blinked. "Kunal. He was the one who saved me. I just helped him with the fever." Kunal's eyes dropped to the floor. "Still, he put himself in danger for you." There was something heavy behind his voice. Curiosity, suspicion, maybe even jealousy. Ada didn't know. She only knew that whatever he had seen in that shelter had placed a new weight between them. Later, when Mjun was resting, he pulled out his phone quietly. His voice strengthened as he made a private call. "Pick him up tonight. Jean Kong. Same charges as before. No mistakes." The line clicked. Justice, silent, efficient, final, was set in motion. And Ada would never know how quickly Mjun moved when she was the one hurt. Kunal barely slept the night Mjun was hospitalized. He rushed between the hospital and the police station, but by dawn, another storm hit the Adeyemi family harder than any personal worry. His uncle, Mr. Bayo Adeyemi, was arrested. The news broke across Seoul like wildfire. Commentators, bloggers, and political analysts all repeated the same headline. Adeyemi Group implicated in bribery and illegal political funding. Kunal stood in the family sitting room, fists clenched, as officers searched through boxes of documents. His mother cried quietly in a corner. The Adeyemi name, once respected, was now tangled in government investigations and public scrutiny. Ada entered the room cautiously. Kunal looked like a man losing everything piece by piece. "It wasn't him," Kunal muttered. "He was framed. Someone is targeting us, Ada. This isn't random." She stepped closer. "What can we do?" Kunal swallowed. "Someone high up has to intervene. If they don't, Uncle Bayo may not come out clean." Ada hesitated. There was one man she had avoided all her life. Her biological father, Chief Emeka Okafor, a Nigerian politician stationed in Seoul. A man who donated money to everyone except his own daughter. Still, she went. She arrived at his glass office, waited almost 30 minutes, and finally stood before him. He barely looked up. "Ada," he said flatly. "What brings you here?" "My family is in trouble," Ada said. "Kunal's uncle was arrested." "Sir, can you help? Even a phone call could." "No." The word hit her like a slap. "I cannot involve myself in someone else's scandal," he said. "My record is clean, and I intend to keep it that way." Ada's voice trembled. "You're my father." He finally met her eyes. "And because I am your father, I am telling you, don't drag me into this. I worked too hard to get where I am." She stood still as his assistant opened the door, silently dismissing her. Humiliation burned through her ribs as she left the building. By evening, desperate and out of options, she went to the only person who had never lied to her. Hon Mjun. He answered his door with that unreadable expression he carried everywhere. "You came fast," he said. "Is this about Bayo Adeyemi?" "Yes." Ada swallowed. "Kunal's family is drowning. Please, help them." Mjun leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "And what will I gain?" Ada's throat closed. I don't have anything. But if you want me." He pushed off the wall immediately, anger slicing through his calm. "Don't finish that sentence." Tears stung her eyes. "You asked what you would gain." Mjun stepped closer, jaw tight. "Is this what you think your worth is?" Ada tried to hold her voice steady. If it helps Kunnel's family, I'll give myself. His eyes darkened, not with desire, but disappointment. He grabbed her waist, pulled her close, and kissed her. One slow, decisive kiss, deep enough to make her breath shake. Then he pulled back. I don't want a woman who sells herself while crying, he said quietly. Not even for love. Ada froze. Mjun stepped away first. Go home. I'll decide what to do on my own terms. Not because you begged. The door closed behind her softly, and her heart broke in silence on the other side. Ada barely slept after leaving Mjun's penthouse. Her lips still trembled from the kiss he'd given her, one that felt like both rejection and warning. She kept replaying his words, unsure if she had ruined everything or if she had simply revealed how desperate she truly was. But by the next morning, news began to shift. Rumors spread that the investigation team handling Bayo Adeyemi's case had suddenly changed direction. A much bigger corruption ring, one that had framed him, was now under pressure. Quiet whispers claimed someone powerful had stepped in behind the scenes, pushing the real culprits against a wall. Someone with enough influence to move entire committees without showing his face. Someone like Hon Mjun. Ada didn't need confirmation, she knew. Later that evening, he called her. No greeting, no hesitation. Come to my office. She went. Mjun stood by the window when she arrived, hands in his pockets, expression calm but sharper than usual. When he turned to her, she felt the room shift. Your family problem, he said. It will be handled. Discreetly. Ada lowered her head. Thank you. I didn't do it for thanks. Her breath caught. Then, why? He walked toward her slowly, the air between them tightening with every step until he stopped just inches from her. Let's define things properly, he said. You asked what I would gain. I'll tell you now. She looked up at him helplessly. I want you, Mjun said. Not as payment. Not as a favor. But on my terms. Her pulse hammered. What does that mean? It means we're together, he said. But privately. A secret. A hidden thing. Something warm and forbidden all at once. He continued, voice low and definite. You answer my calls. Immediately. You come to me when I ask. You don't let any man hold that place in your life. Not even Kunnel. Ada's chest tightened. Mjun. You agree, he said. Or you walk out now. She didn't walk out. Instead, she whispered. Kunnel must never know. Mjun's eyes flickered with something unreadable. Annoyance, amusement, maybe jealousy. So I'm your sin now, he murmured. Her cheeks burned. That's not what I meant. It is, he said softly, stepping closer until her back touched the desk. You treat me like something dangerous. Because you are dangerous, she whispered. He smiled, slow, pleased, almost wicked. That's the smartest thing you've said. Her blush deepened, and Mjun leaned in, brushing his thumb across her jaw. Keep looking at me like that, and I might forget this is supposed to be secret. Ada tried to hide her face, but he tilted her chin up gently. I like your blush, he said. Don't hide it. She swallowed hard. So, we're really doing this? Mjun's eyes warmed. Rare, quiet heat. We already started, Ada. He stepped back, giving her space to breathe. Go home, he said. I'll call you tomorrow. As Ada walked out of his office, her heart trembled with fear, confusion, and a rising, impossible warmth. She had entered something she couldn't undo. And Mjun knew it. The next morning, Ada woke up to a quiet house. Kunnel had left early to meet the lawyers handling Uncle Bayo's case, and Yulisa asked Ada to join her in the dining room. The tone of her voice already told Ada this wasn't a casual talk. Yulisa sat with a warm cup of tea, but her expression was heavy. Ada, she began softly, I need to talk to you about Kunnel. Ada nodded, sitting slowly. You know he's under a lot of pressure, Yulisa continued. His uncle's case, the company, and now the engagement preparations. He needs stability. No confusion. No emotional distractions. Ada kept her hands folded tightly. She already sensed where this was going. Ada, Yulisa said, I want you to keep some distance from him. At least until after the wedding. The words landed like a stone, expected, yet still painful. Ada sat straighter. Auntie. I don't want to cause any trouble for Kunnel. Yulisa hesitated, then sighed, almost guiltily. There's something you should know. 5 years ago, when you suddenly left Seoul, it wasn't just because of a scholarship opportunity. Ada froze. I saw your diary, Yulisa admitted quietly. I saw how you felt about Kunnel. You were still young then, and I panicked. I didn't want rumors about you too. I didn't want people saying my son was taking advantage of you. So I spoke to your father and arrangements were made. Ada felt something inside her tighten and unclench at once. She'd always wondered why everyone had pushed so hard for her to go abroad. Yulisa continued. I'm not angry, Ada. You didn't do anything wrong. But Kunnel loves Mabel, and he needs peace now more than ever. Ada nodded slowly. I understand. But Yulisa wasn't finished. Yesterday, I asked Mabel to reflect on everything that has happened. She feels insecure. She thinks the misunderstandings between her and Kunnel are because of your presence. Ada swallowed hard. And you agree with her? I think everyone in this house is under pressure, Yulisa said. And sometimes, eliminating tension is better than increasing it. Ada took a deep breath. Auntie. I'll move out soon. Yulisa looked surprised. Move out? Yes, Ada said softly. I've started seeing someone. And it's serious. I don't want to be a burden here anymore. Yulisa blinked, shock washing over her face. Someone else? Truly. Ada nodded. She didn't say Mjun's name, but she knew it didn't matter. The important part was that she wasn't clinging to Kunnel. Yulisa reached across the table, touching her hand gently. Ada, thank you. I mean that. Just promise me something. What is it? Help Kunnel and Mabel fix their problems, Yulisa said. Not break them. I know you're not the type to cause harm. Just stay neutral. Let them sort out their marriage without added stress. Ada forced a small smile. I promise. Her heart ached quietly, but her decision didn't waver. She had chosen her own path now. And Mjun was waiting for her on it, whether she was ready or not. Kunnel left early for meetings about Uncle Bao's case, and Ada prepared for the business summit that Han Group insisted all partner companies attend. It was her first major public event since returning to Seoul, and she needed to bring home something valuable. Something that proved she belonged on the project. She arrived at the summit venue determined, focused, and steady. The target of the day was Kong Dae-ho, one of the brightest engineers in South Korea, an expert in hydrogen storage systems. Every tech company in the room wanted him. Ada needed him for Adeyemi Tech's drone project more than anyone else. She studied his schedule, waited for her chance, and approached him with a clear pitch. Sir, please give Adeyemi Tech a chance. We're building something that needs your touch. Dae-ho looked entertained. Your passion is louder than the rest of them. Because I'm desperate, Ada said honestly. But for a good reason. He laughed lightly but didn't give an answer. She followed him through 2 panels, 1 networking break, and even a Q&A session, persistent without being annoying. She tried everything she had, logic, data, vision, sincerity. Hours later, exhausted, she finally slumped into a chair outside the ballroom. She didn't notice Mjun walk up until his shadow covered her. You worked too hard for something already solved, he said plainly. Ada blinked. Solved. Mjun sat beside her. Dae-ho agreed to join Han Group last week. His contract is signed. Her heart dropped. Then why did you let me chase him like an idiot? I wanted to see how far you would go, he replied calmly. If you would give up. Or fight. So it was a test? Ada asked quietly. A mirror, he corrected. You always show your truth when you want something badly. She sighed and leaned back. You enjoy stressing me. He smirked. Maybe. Later that evening, the summit reception served wine. Ada wasn't a drinker, but her nerves were still raw. She took one glass, then another. Before long, her head went warm and her steps a little uncertain. She turned a corner and crashed lightly into a firm chest. Mjun. He steadied her immediately. You drank. Only a little, she murmured, staring up at him. You're too close. He raised a brow. You walked into me. Ada didn't move away. Her fingers touched his collar, climbing slowly as if searching for balance, but really searching for him. Ada, he warned softly. She didn't listen. Her lips brushed his jaw, accident or intention, even she didn't know. Mjun caught her face gently. If you kiss me here, half this summit will see. So, she whispered. So, he said, lifting her effortlessly into his arms. I prefer my scandals private. Ada's eyes widened as he carried her down the hall toward the hotel wing of the venue. You keep trying to sleep with me when you're drunk, he said, amused. I'm not trying anything, she muttered. You are, he replied, unlocking a room with a card. And you have terrible timing. He laid her carefully on the bed. Sleep, he ordered softly. Ada closed her eyes. The last thing she heard was Mjun's quiet laugh, warm, teasing, and entirely dangerous. Ada woke with a dull headache and a mortifying memory of almost kissing Mjun in a hotel corridor. By the time she returned home, the Adeyemi house was already tense. Kunal wasn't in sight. Yulisa's eyes were swollen. The atmosphere felt heavy, like a storm forming behind closed doors. She didn't have to wait long before the news hit. Jin Kong had been released. Early. And the reason was simple. His grandfather, Chairman Kong, had pulled strings that no one could resist. Within hours of stepping out, Jin Kong was already pointing fingers. And he pointed them straight at Ada. He said you ruined his life, Kunal told her in the study. His voice was cold, not toward her, but toward everything happening around him. He's telling people you provoked him. That you're unstable. That you've been causing trouble for everyone around you. Ada's stomach twisted. That's not true. He drugged me. I know, Kunal cut in gently. But his side has influence. And power. A dark shadow stretched across the whole Adeyemi estate. What Ada didn't know, not yet, was that Jin Kong wasn't working alone. Lauren and the Ford sisters had joined him, feeding him lies to use against the Adeyemi family. Together, they built a narrative that made Bayo Adeyemi look guilty on every front. Faked documents. Misleading transactions. Old photos twisted into new accusations. And then the blow landed. A new report surfaced claiming Bayo had personally approved illegal deals years back. It was false, but convincing enough to get national attention. Kunal read the article twice, jaw locked so tight his teeth might crack. He's my uncle. My mentor. This is a setup. Ada stood beside him, feeling helpless. Kunal. I'm sorry. Sorry for what? He asked, exhausted. For bringing trouble. For being dragged into this mess with Jin Kong. Kunal shook his head. Ada, you didn't do anything wrong. But even his reassurance felt weak. Not because he didn't mean it. Because the world outside didn't care about the truth. By afternoon, the family cracked further. Yulisa collapsed in the hallway. 1 second she was holding a tray of tea. The next, the tray crashed to the floor and she sank with it. Ada screamed for help. Kunal carried his mother to the car, his hands trembling. She hasn't slept. She hasn't eaten. She's been trying to defend the family name all week. At the hospital, the doctor confirmed it was stress-induced exhaustion. Ada sat outside the ward, numb. Every memory of being welcomed into the Adeyemi family played in her mind like a painful rewind. Yulisa teaching her how to pronounce simple Korean phrases. Bayo gifting her books. Kunal helping her with her school forms. This family had given her everything. And now they were bleeding because of her connection to Jean Kong. She pressed her hands together tightly, fighting tears. "I shouldn't have come back," she whispered. "I keep bringing trouble to the people who protected me." She meant every word. But she didn't know that in another part of Seoul, Mjun had already heard the news. And his reaction would pull her deeper into a world she was trying to escape. Ada barely slept after Yulisa's collapse. The doctor said she needed rest, but rest was impossible while the Adeyemi name was being dragged through every political alley in Seoul. Kunal was doing everything he could, but it wasn't enough. Every new headline stabbed deeper, and Ada felt each cut like it was meant for her. By morning, she knew there was only one person left to try. Her biological father. She went to his office again, heart tight but determined. The secretary recognized her and let her in with a strained smile, but her father's expression didn't soften. "What are you doing here again?" he asked, not even looking up. "Father, please," Ada said quietly. "The Adeyemis are drowning. Uncle Bayo is being framed. You have influence. You can help." He scoffed. "You want me to interfere in a political war over another family? Are you mad?" "They saved me," she said. "They raised me." "That is your business," he replied. "But hear me clearly, this Adeyemi household you cling to is bad luck. If you stay tied to them, you'll drown too. Stay out of it." Her chest tightened. "You're saying I should watch them fall?" "I'm saying protect yourself," he said coldly. "Or you won't survive in a city like Seoul." His dismissal was final. Ada left his office with shaking hands, feeling more abandoned than ever. But the real blow came later, when Jean Kong found her waiting outside a cafe near Adeyemi Tech. He stepped from a black car with 2 guards behind him, smiling like a serpent. "Ada," he greeted. "You look tired." She turned away, but he stepped in front of her. "I can save Bayo Adeyemi," Jean said casually. "My grandfather has the power. One phone call and the case disappears." Ada froze. "But," Jean added, leaning closer, "it comes at a price. Be mine. Publicly or privately, I don't care. Become my woman, and I'll protect the Adeyemis." Ada's stomach twisted violently. "You're disgusting." "I'm offering you a way out," Jean said with a shrug. "Think about Yulisa in the hospital. Think about Kunal breaking under pressure. One word from you could fix everything. And you think I would sell myself to you?" she whispered. Jean smirked. "For them. Yes." Ada stared at him, feeling sick. Then she stepped back. "I would rather die." She walked away, but his words pulsed behind her like poison. "One move from you could save them." Shaking, confused, torn in two, she went to the only person who had ever been brutally honest with her. Hon Mjun. He opened his penthouse door the moment she knocked. "Ada." She cut him off, breath uneven. "I'm ready." His eyes narrowed. "Ready for what?" "For whatever you want," she said. "If you can save Bayo, if you can protect Kunal's family, I'll give myself fully." No hesitation. Mjun went still. Then he stepped close, grabbed her waist, and kissed her hard, cold, testing, claiming nothing, demanding everything. When he pulled away, Ada was trembling. "That's what you think I want?" he asked quietly. "A woman who trades her body out of fear?" Tears slipped down her cheek. Mjun cupped her jaw gently. "I'll help you," he said. "But not under dirty terms. Not like this. Not ever." Ada's breath broke. "You're not something to bargain with," he added softly. "Not to Jean. Not to your father. Not even to me." His thumb wiped her tear. "You came to the right man, Ada. Now let me handle this." Mjun moved quickly, So quickly Ada barely understood how many doors he could open without anyone noticing. The moment she confessed her desperation, he shifted from cold teasing to a level of influence she had only seen whispered about in business rumors. He didn't tell her his plans. He didn't need to. That same night, he made calls that reached the highest corners of Seoul's political world. His family vault contained files documenting old bribery chains, names, dates, accounts, transfers, evidence kept sealed for emergencies. And this one was personal. By morning, Seoul woke to a storm. Chairman Kong, the untouchable patriarch who pulled Jean Kong out of jail, was suddenly under investigation. News outlets exploded with headlines linking him to an old bribery network that now resurfaced with shocking clarity. Politicians distanced themselves immediately. Analysts speculated this could be the end of his power. And in the middle of the chaos, Bao Adeyemi's name cleared, quietly, cleanly, and without discussion. Colonel received a discreet message. Case closed. Charges withdrawn. No further action. By noon, Bao walked out of the holding facility, exhausted but free. Colonel burst into tears the moment he saw him. Yulisa, still weak from stress, held her husband tightly as the family surrounded them at home. "It's over," Colonel whispered, voice shaking. "Uncle, you're home." Ada stood in the corner, relief washing through her like warm rain. She hadn't breathed properly in days. Everyone wanted answers. Everyone wanted to know who had intervened. And the truth came out slowly, through a quiet conversation between Bao and Colonel. "Do you know who protected us?" Bao asked. Colonel shook his head. Mjun. Ada felt her pulse jump. Later, when the family insisted on having dinner to celebrate, Colonel stood and lifted his glass. "To Mjun," he said. "None of this would have been possible without him." Ada lowered her eyes. She didn't trust her face at that moment. After dinner, she slipped away to the backyard, just a moment to breathe. The night air was cool and steady, calming her pounding heart. But she wasn't alone for long. Mjun stepped out from the shadows, hands in his pockets. He always walked quietly, like someone who didn't need to announce himself. "You're hiding," he said simply. "No," Ada replied. "Just thinking." He approached slowly, stopping in front of her. "Your family is safe now." "Our family," she corrected before she could stop herself. His eyes softened. "Come here," he murmured. She moved before her fear could speak. His hand cupped her jaw gently, guiding her close. This kiss wasn't cold like the one he used to test her earlier. It was slow, real, full of the truth neither of them wanted to admit. When they separated, Ada's breath trembled. Mjun brushed his thumb across her lower lip. "You still owe me something." "What?" "Honest words about your heart," he said. "Not desperation. Not fear. Just truth." Ada swallowed hard. He leaned closer, whispering, "I can wait, but not forever." And for the first time since her return to Seoul, Ada felt her heart answer him. The Kong family fell hard, but Jean Kong fell the hardest. With Chairman Kong under investigation and every protection pulled from around him, Jean vanished into Seoul's underworld like a wounded animal searching for someone to bite. And he chose Ada. She had just left Adeyemi Tech one evening when a black van screeched beside the curb. Before she could react, a hand clamped over her mouth and dragged her inside. She kicked, scratched, fought, but Jean Kang's men were stronger, trained to shut down noise and movement in seconds. When the blindfold came off, she was tied to a metal pillar inside an old warehouse on the outskirts of Seoul. Cold cement floors, rusted beams, and the echo of dripping water. Jean stood in front of her, bruised and furious. "You," he spat. "Everything was fine until you came back to Seoul. You ruined me." Ada glared at him, voice shaking but steady. "You ruined yourself." He struck the pillar beside her face, making her flinch. "Say that again once I'm done with you." Before she could respond, Jean pulled out two phones, not his own. He dialed Colonel first. "Come alone," Jean said. Unless you want Ada to die screaming. Ada jerked in the ropes. Colonel, don't. Jean slapped a hand over her mouth and hung up. Then he dialed Mjun. The moment Mjun answered, Jean smirked. If you care about her, come to the address I sent. Let's see how much she's worth. Ada's heart froze. He had called both of them. When Jean hung up, he crouched in front of her. Let them fight for you. Let both men kneel, beg, bleed. I want all of Seoul to know the Adeyemis and Han group broke because of one girl. Leave them out of this, Ada begged. Hurt me if you want, but leave them. Oh, I plan to hurt you, Jean whispered. Right in front of them. She felt sick. Minutes later, footsteps echoed outside the warehouse. 2 sets. Colonel ran in first, breathless, eyes wild the moment he saw her. Ada. Behind him, slower but deadly calm, came Mjun, hands in fists, jaw clenched hard enough to crack bone. Jean spread his arms wide. Beautiful. Both heroes arrived. Colonel moved forward, but Jean lifted a gun and pointed it at Ada's forehead. One more step and she dies, Jean hissed. Colonel froze. Mjun said nothing, but his eyes sharpened into something cold and lethal. Jean laughed at the contrast. Look at you two. One panicking like a child. And you, he pointed at Mjun, pretending you don't care when you're burning inside. He walked behind Ada and grabbed the collar of her blouse. Maybe I should strip her now. Let's see who loses control first. Colonel surged forward. Don't touch her. But Jean cocked the gun casually. Mjun. Kneel. Ada's breath stopped. No, don't. Jean aimed the gun at her chest. Now, he said, or I'll put a bullet through her heart. Colonel shook his head. Don't do it, Mjun. But Mjun stepped forward slowly, eyes locked on Jean. Then he dropped to one knee. For Ada. Mjun remained on one knee, shoulders squared, eyes locked on Jean Kong with a calmness that made the warehouse feel colder. Ada shook her head violently, tears streaming as she struggled against the ropes. Mjun, don't, she cried. Please, don't do this. Colonel could barely breathe. Get up, Mjun. He won't shoot. This is what he wants. But Mjun didn't move. He lifted his hands slowly, deliberately, showing he had nothing to fight with but himself. Let her go, he said quietly. You want revenge? Take me. Jin's grin widened, manic and triumphant. Of course it would be you. The Prince of Seoul kneeling like a dog. I should record this. Mjun's voice stayed steady. I'm the one who destroyed your family's cover. I'm the one who pulled the files. Take me and leave her. Ada's breath hitched. Colonel froze, disbelief written all over him. Jean stepped closer, pressing the gun against Mjun's forehead. You think you get to negotiate? No. Today I take everything. I'll kill you, then Ada. Then let Colonel watch his world crumble. Ada screamed through clenched teeth. Mjun, run! But Mjun didn't budge. Instead, he shifted slightly, positioning his body directly between Ada and Jean. You touch her, he said softly, and you won't leave this place alive. Jean snarled. Let's test that. He stepped back a few paces, raising the gun to aim directly at Ada's chest. Time froze. Mjun moved first. He lunged upward, pushing Ada with all his strength just as Jean pulled the trigger. Bang. The sound echoed through the metal warehouse like a crack of lightning. Ada felt the impact, but it wasn't on her. It was Mjun collapsing against her, his weight forcing her to the ground. Blood spread across his shirt, warm and terrifying. No, 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 no. Ada screamed, catching him before he hit the floor. Mjun. Stay with me. Jean stumbled backward in shock as shouts erupted outside. Within seconds, armed officers and Mjun's private security stormed the warehouse from every entrance. Drop the weapon. On the ground now. Move in, he fired a shot. Jean fired blindly toward the approaching men, but he was already cornered. A bullet hit his shoulder, spinning him to the ground. Some said he was dragged out half-conscious. Others swore he escaped into the night bleeding heavily. Ada didn't notice. Her entire world had narrowed to the man bleeding in her arms. Kunnel tore through the chaos and dropped beside her. Ada. Oh my God, Mjun. He saved me, Ada sobbed. He saved me, he took the bullet. Please, call someone, please. He's already being taken, Kunnel said, voice shaking, as medics rushed in. They lifted Mjun onto a stretcher. Ada climbed into the ambulance without waiting for permission, grabbing Mjun's hand in both of hers. His eyelids fluttered weakly. Ada, he whispered, barely audible. No, she cried, pressing her forehead to his. Don't talk. Don't close your eyes. You promised me. You promised you would wait for my answer. Don't you dare leave before hearing it. His lips moved, faint, strained. You still owe me honest words. Ada broke down completely. I love you, she choked out. I love you, so please, please don't die. The ambulance sped toward Seoul General, sirens splitting the night. And Ada held his hand as if her life depended on it. The first night after the shooting felt endless. Machines beeped steadily in the ICU, their cold rhythm the only sign that Mjun was still clinging to life. Doctors said the bullet had missed his heart by inches, but the trauma and blood loss dropped him into a coma. No timeline. No promises. Ada refused to leave his side. Days blurred into nights. Nurses brought blankets she never used. Kunnel and Yulisa begged her to rest, but Ada only shook her head and stayed right there. Fingers wrapped around Mjun's unmoving hand, forehead pressed gently to his arm. She spoke to him constantly, soft words carried into the quiet room. Do you remember the airport? She whispered. When you told me I had no special right. I hated you that day. But you noticed me more than anyone else did. Sometimes she laughed through tears. Sometimes her voice broke. You always show up when I'm in trouble. Even when you pretend you don't care. Even when you tried to push me away. Mjun. I thought it was just gratitude at first. But it wasn't. Every morning she told him good morning. Every night she told him she wasn't leaving. 2 weeks in, Kunnel walked in quietly and found Ada talking to Mjun again. This time holding his hand between both of hers like something fragile and precious. And you said I owed you honest words about my heart, she whispered. I was afraid. I didn't want to fall for someone who could break me. But you already did. And not once. She brushed his hair back gently. I love you, Mjun. I've loved you for a long time. Even when I didn't want to. Even when I was confused. Even before I admitted it. Kunnel didn't make a sound, but Ada sensed him there. She turned, startled, wiping her face. I didn't know you were listening, she murmured. Kunnel managed a soft, tired smile, one filled with all the acceptance he should have shown years ago. You don't have to hide, he said. I already knew your heart wasn't with me anymore. It's okay, Ada. Really. Her eyes widened, her chest tightening. Kunnel. You don't need to explain, he said gently. Take care of him. He deserves someone who fights this hard for him. Ada let out a shaky breath. Gratitude, guilt, and relief rushed together. The days that followed were quieter, but she never stopped talking to Mjun. She held his hand while reading emails, recalling childhood memories, even complaining about hospital food. Exactly 1 month after the shooting, she sat beside him again with her head resting on his arm. She sighed softly. If you wake up, I'll tell everyone. The whole world. I'll say it out loud with my chest. Hon Mjun is my boyfriend for life. I don't care who hears it. A silence followed. Then, a twitch. Ada froze. Mjun's fingers moved against her palm. Her breath caught. She lifted her head in disbelief. Mjun. His eyelids trembled, then slowly opened, dark, unfocused at first, then settling on her face. He tried to speak, voice rough. Boyfriend for life? Ada burst into tears, laughing, sobbing, trembling all at once. Yes, she cried. Yes. For life. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Took you long enough, little princess. The moment Mjun opened his eyes, Ada didn't hold back. She leaned forward, threw her arms around him gently, mindful of the wires, and pressed her face into his neck. I love you, she whispered instantly, openly, without fear this time. I love you, Mjun. I'm not running anymore. His hand lifted weakly, fingers brushing her back in a slow, steady claim. You said it while I was asleep, he murmured. Say it again. She pulled back just enough to look at him. I love you. A faint smirk curved his lips. Good. You're stuck with me forever now. She laughed through tears, kissing his forehead. I think I've been stuck with you since the airport. Kunal entered quietly with Yulisa behind him. When they saw Mjun awake, really awake, relief washed over both of them. Kunal swallowed hard. Mjun, thank you, he said. For everything. For saving Ada. For saving my uncle. For not letting us crash completely. Mjun looked at him calmly. You're my friend. I wasn't going to let your family fall. Then Yulisa stepped forward, eyes soft. She placed her hand over Ada's. You two suit each other, she said warmly. And Ada, you're not just someone we raised anymore. You are family. A daughter to me. A sister to Kunal. We want your happiness. Ada felt her throat tighten. Yulisa had once pushed her away to protect Kunal, but now she was pulling her closer than ever. Thank you, Ada whispered. For accepting us. Yulisa smiled and squeezed their hands. Just promise me one thing. Take care of each other. Seoul is not an easy place. Mjun answered before Ada could. She's mine to protect. Always. The weeks that followed changed everything in the city. The Kong family fell completely. Investigations uncovered years of corruption. Chairman Kong resigned. Jean Kong disappeared from public view, under strict surveillance and facing unavoidable punishment. Their power over Seoul was gone. Bayo Adeyemi returned to his office with a clean name. People respected him again, even more than before. Employees lined up to welcome him back. Adeyemi Tech completed the hydrogen drone project on time. The final testing was flawless. Han Group signed a major long-term partnership. Investors returned. The company regained stability and pride. Through all the chaos, Ada stayed by Mjun's side as he healed, feeding him soup he pretended he didn't like, watching him sleep with gratitude, and stealing quiet moments he pretended not to enjoy. One afternoon, when he was finally strong enough to leave the hospital, they walked out together. No secret tables. No hidden corners. No pretending. Hand in hand. Mjun squeezed her fingers. Are you ready? She smiled. For what? To be seen, he said. By everyone. Mine in public. Ada laced her fingers tighter with his. I've been yours since you said, seduce me, at the airport. He laughed under his breath. That was supposed to scare you off. It did the opposite, she replied. They walked forward through the hospital doors into the Seoul sunlight, side by side, matching steps like they had always been meant to. Partners in love. Partners in business. Partners in every war still waiting for them. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Thank you so much for staying with us till this very point of the story. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like this video. As the story just got juicy, share it with your friends, and leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thought this story, and how we can continue improving to give you the very best. Until next time, we are Mjun Stories, bringing you amazing tales under the moonlight. Stay blessed.